Welcome to the channel, bringing a real-world perspective to the real-world whiskey consumer.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Erin.
And we are back with another topical video where we like to start conversations or continue conversations with you guys. So leave some comments down below on this one if you've got some input. I'm sure everyone does. Everyone has their own methodology for this.
Yep.
But today what we're talking about is how we taste and analyze whiskey. And this is specifically spurred by Jopo Yo-Yo, because now we don't see names, we just see usernames in the comments. But Jopo Yo-Yo asked us in the comments, how do you detect specific aromas and tasting notes in a whiskey, and can that skill be learned? Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting topic.
Yeah, it is. And to answer the last part of the question, yes, I think it can be learned.
Yeah.
But it has to be intentional. Granted, you'll probably pick up some things over time just by the nature of drinking more whiskey, but you can learn to taste things if you give it attention.
Yeah, I would say it's fair to say 2 years now, 2.5 years after starting the channel, that we do smell and taste and pick up on things more than we did before we started the channel.
And I specifically try not to learn, and I think I have learned some things.
Yeah, on accident.
On accident. So I think it can be a skill that you learn over time, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
But if you fully commit yourself to learning, you can learn pretty quickly, probably.
Right. And this is a good topic. So we have a little glass here. We're going to talk through it. We've got Wild Turkey 101. We wanted to use a whiskey that is fairly inexpensive, that most people might have. So if you have a bottle of this, you want to taste along, smell along at home, feel free to pour yourself some and join in with us. But first up is the glass you use. So if you use a rocks glass, it has a bigger opening. It doesn't really funnel the smell. And I have a really difficult time smelling with a rocks glass. I really like Glencairns because they kind of funnel, the tulip shape funnels the vapors up, but it can be a lot. It can be a little aggressive on your nose, but I just approach with caution. And
right. And I think trying the different types of glasses and seeing what works for your nose is a good way to go about it.
Yeah, I got a big honking nose here, and a lot of people like using the mini Glens. I can't get my nose in them. It's hard for me to smell with them. So big Glens are where it's at for me. Yeah, let's get into the nose on here and let's talk through our process. So Wild Turkey 101. So what you don't see on camera, but what happens in every video, is that we go in for that initial smell and then we don't say anything to each other for probably 30 seconds or so because we're just trying to figure out what we're getting. And immediately what I'm doing is I'm thinking, is this sweet? Is it more earthy? If it is sweet, what kind of sweetness does it have? If it's earthy, what kind of earthiness is it?
That is not my process.
Yeah. And then once I dial in, I'm like, okay, is it sweet? Is it more like candy sweet, more baked goods sweet? Like where in the sweetness is it falling?
Yeah.
Fruity sweet, like real fruit?
My process is, does it remind me of anything?
Yeah.
If I get a visual picture of something, like a barn or straw or stinky feet, that's what I say.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get anything. I'm letting the glass speak to me and tell me what it is.
Right. And I'm being a lot more analytical about it. So when I smell this, and I know what I'm smelling, we're not blind. So I have all these preconceived notions as a whiskey nerd, what Wild Turkey 101 is supposed to smell like. And to me, right now, it's smelling like cherry pie, which is something I get on it a lot. It smells like a baked good that is sweet.
My cherry pie. Okay.
And when the sweetness hits from that, I'm like, okay, what is that? That's a baked good with a fruity sweetness underneath it, and that's more in the cherry vein. So do I eat a lot of cherry pie? No, but I know what it tastes like. I know what it smells like. And that's what this smells like. It kind of smells like cherry pie taste, kind of.
Okay.
There's a little earthiness in there as well, which people talk about the Wild Turkey funk. We don't always pick it up in blinds, but I know I'm drinking Wild Turkey, so I'm getting a little bit of earthiness underneath that. But like I said, if I got fruitiness or candy sweetness or spearmint or something, I would go for that. But to your point, it really does tie back to what your experiences are. So like if I eat a lot of sweets, then that's what I equate a lot of my flavors to.
Yeah.
You go with things that remind you of. I've personally taken like whole jars of cinnamon from our kitchen to work with me and just smelled it periodically through the day to try to ingrain that smell in my mind so that when I smell it in whiskey, I know what I'm getting. But, they sell tasting and nosing kits, rather. They sell nosing kits out there. You can just do a quick Google search and find something that will give you all the usual smells in whiskey.
There's some pretty decent ones on Amazon, too.
Yeah. Let's get this on the palate.
Okay. So for me, immediately, I get straw.
Yep.
And also full disclaimer, I burnt a few of my taste buds with hot coffee this morning. So my mid palate is not there today.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair to know. And that's what you eat and what you drink can affect what you taste. So the same exact bottle tasted on a different day may taste totally different based on where you're at with your palate. Maybe you scalded yourself with some coffee, maybe you ate some spicy food, maybe, you know, there could be a 100 different reasons.
Yeah.
Could be your mood could affect. But what I want to say when I took that sip,
Sweet too.
it is sweet. I do want to say that when I take a sip, I don't take a super, super small sip, but I definitely don't take a large sip either. I sip and I let it linger on my tongue for just a few seconds before I swallow it down. Because if I just go straight back, everything is really hot. But if I let it sit on my tongue and let my tongue acclimate.
This isn't a shot. You're not shooting it.
Right.
But you don't want it to like sit there forever. At least I don't, because that burns. But a second is good. That way it coats your tongue.
Yeah, just a second or two to let your mouth get ready for the alcohol that's coming, and then we swallow it down. Now, this is worth noting. That was our first sip of the day.
Yep.
And you can never trust your first sip. You oftentimes talk about your first sip. So just kind of count that first one as a little bit of a throwaway, acclimating to the product.
It's an acclimation sip. It gets you acclimated to the fact that you're drinking alcohol and whatever comes along with that. And then now we can take a second first sip to actually get some more flavor.
Right. So let's go ahead and go in there for that first sip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sugar, spice, everything nice.
Yeah. I get kind of a straw flavor up front, and then at the back it's sweet.
Yeah.
But a good sweet. It's not too sweet. It's not something I probably would drink a ton of at a time because it could get too sweet.
Yeah.
But that's just something you learn when you know what your palate's like.
Right. And we know we're drinking bourbon. Typical bourbon notes are caramel, vanilla, and oak. All those are in here. It's kind of skews more towards the vanilla heavy side. It has a little bit of that earthiness. And I just know that because I eat a lot of things that have the vanilla flavor in them. And then the earthiness is pretty easy to detect. Like there's something in there that tastes of the earth. Or you've said before, like a Whole Foods. It tastes like a Whole Foods whiskey.
A Whole Foods market whiskey, yeah.
Yeah, so that's in there. And then there is that cherry pie kind of sweetness, like pie crust, cherry filling, all that stuff is kind of in there on the back, lingering.
Pie.
And then I know I'm drinking Wild Turkey, so I'm looking for a little bit of cinnamon, and that's definitely in there as well, like that cinnamon, clove, nutmeg type of, baking spices that some people say. That's kind of the cinnamon, clove, nutmeg wheelhouse. But yeah, all that's in there. The other thing I will say, after I take that second sip, I start focusing on the experience as well. So is it coating my mouth? Does the finish hang around? Or does it disappear fairly quickly?
That's
those are
important,
things I like. I like a whiskey that kind of lingers around, that I don't have to just go in for a next sip right away. I can taste it still. I can still taste this. So yeah, it really comes down to muscle memory, practice, as with anything.
Yeah, it truly does. It's practice. And like I said, myself, over 2 years of doing this channel, just by the nature of drinking whiskey consistently for 2 years, I am picking up on some things as well.
Yep.
And I'm not even trying. So you can learn how to taste it, especially if you try. There are many ways you can do it. You can find nosing kits online. You can just practice. You can read up about like what typical things you get with a Wild Turkey 101, for example, and see if you get them. I think those are some good things to start with if you want to start learning.
And the last tip I'll throw out here is tasting whiskey and learning how to detect flavors doesn't just happen when you're drinking whiskey. Pay attention to the flavors you're getting when you eat foods.
Yep.
Because this is something that I learned when I started trying to pick out flavors in whiskey. I started paying attention to flavors I was getting in food and realized there was so many times where I would just eat something and think, oh, that tastes good, or I don't really like that. But I never thought about the flavors I was actually tasting.
That's a good point.
So I actually now eat, like if I eat a raspberry fig bar, I'll pay attention to what the raspberry flavor tastes like and the fig bar portion, like not just the filling. Or if I'm eating some kind of cookie or something, I'm paying attention, or fruit or whatever.
Yeah.
So just paying attention to what those flavors taste like
Yep.
can really help you in your whiskey tasting. And you can practice that pretty much every day, all the time.
At least 3 times a day.
At least.
If you're eating 3 meals a day.
Plus snacks. Gotta have snacks.
Some people don't eat breakfast, but I do. I'm a breakfast lover.
All right. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. If you have any tips personally that you want to leave in the comments below, make sure to leave those. If people are watching this and they want some more tips, check it out down there.
Yep.
And, don't just right off a whiskey because it's 101 proof or even higher. Some balanced whiskeys can be very good and you can get a lot of flavors, whereas lower proof whiskeys sometimes can be harder to get flavors. So experiment.
Yeah.
That's really the key to
Yeah.
all this, is just experiment.
Yep.
But hopefully you liked this video. If you did, leave it a like. Think about subscribing because we do content like this over here every single week.
Yep.
And hit that bell down there if you'd like to be notified when we go live. We do that once a month, and we'd like for you to join us for a pour.
Absolutely. That's it for today. Be good to each other. And until next time,
Cheers.
Cheers.